From Geppetto Studios in New Freedom, Pennsylvania, welcome to the Cosmic Geppetto Podcast, your home for inclusive, positive geek culture, where we talk about movies, comics, music, books, and whatever else we feel like. Please welcome your host.
Gosh, what tiny ear holes you have.
Brad Mendenhall.
Hey kids, it is episode 214 of the Cosmic Geppetto Podcast. The Honey Badger, Katie May, is back to talk about the Fantastic Beasts film series. Because somebody has to. Anywho, this is usually when we would have a Katie question, but that wouldn't make sense. So we had Amy step in.
Hey everyone in Cosmic Geppetto Land, it's your friendly neighborhood murder hornet, here in my latest evil scheme to make Katie obsolete. To help make the podcast better with queries of my own. There seems to be a trend of turning well-known pop culture movies and musical artists into Broadway shows. What movie, TV show, comic, book, or band would you like to see turned into its own Broadway musical?
Wow, that is a fantastic question. It's funny. My favorite album of all time, or one of my 4 Desert Island albums, is Matthew Sweet's Girlfriend, which actually does have a musical created for it. One I don't not think has ever made it to Broadway, but has been performed and has gotten good reviews. So that's a good one. I'm a big fan of Marshall Crenshaw, who I think you can make a neat jukebox musical on his music. It would be very different because it's not orchestral. He does sort of a neat rockabilly sound. Comic books, I don't think you should do comic books. I know they did the Spider-Man Into the Dark or something like that. That cost a ton of money, lost a ton of money, and a bunch of people got hurt doing the stunts. I actually just talked with somebody whose daughter saw the show and said it was really an impressive. The visuals were really impressive, but I don't think they've tried that before. I know there was I think 1 or 2 different Superman musicals that were pretty bad. Superheroes don't need to be everywhere. What else would be a good something good to transfer over? I know, what was it? I'm a Cyndi Lauper fan, and I don't think that comes up too often on the show. I know they turned. She did the music for, I think it was Kinky Boots, which is fantastic. But I think there's sort of missing the opportunity to. She has such good music, and I think you could. And like time after time has been used for quite a few movies, and I think you could take that, True Colors, and some of her other music, and you could make again another great jukebox musical.
If you were turned into an action figure, what accessories would you come with? And what would your weakness be, Katie?
Well, Amy, to answer your question, if there was a Honey Badger action figure, her accessories would include a push dagger, baton, and extreme sarcasm. Her weakness is that she needs to eat nearly constantly.
That's all for now. Stay safe, everyone, and stay sane.
You have tiny ear holes?
I do. I have tiny ear holes, so I have to, it's hard for me to find in-ear headphones that stay in. So I usually have to get the over-the-ear headsets.
Have you had a doctor comment about how, gosh, what tiny ear holes you have?
No, it's just observational from my lack of being able to keep earbuds in my ears. I also have a small head. I have a child-sized head, in case you were wondering.
I remember you talking about before you got LASIK surgery, it took you forever to find a half-decent pair of glasses because of your tiny head.
Yeah, I have a small head. It's hard for me to find hats. I usually wear a child-sized hat. This is a true story. When Ryan and I went to Hawaii for our honeymoon, we did this really cool thing where we went tubing through the sugarcane plantation, or not plantation, it's sugarcane, what's that called? Like their water channels. It was really awesome, but we had to wear helmets, which obviously, safety first. And so they get out the helmets, and they're like these big blue helmets, and they have the little black thing on the inside where you can tighten it, so that it's kind of like a one size fits all, because you can tighten it within to make it fit your head. So I'm tightening and I've got it as tight as it can go, and there's still like 2 inches of room. So they had to go and get me a kid helmet. And so everybody's got these blue helmets, and I've got this bright orange helmet. And there's a picture where Ryan has his hand on one helmet, and it's like normal size of them. Like he's like palming the helmet that I had to wear. It was very embarrassing.
How is Ryan doing?
He's good. He's living his best indoor cat life right now.
It's funny. I was just talking about he and I, our time on Minute of Darkness, because we recorded a bunch of that leading up to the 2016 election.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the thing I always said is we recorded it before the election and we released it after the election. So it was a little painful because we had all these discussions where everyone was so certain that the election was going to go a different way than it ended up going. It wasn't like we would say stuff directly, but there would be little jokes or little asides. And then listening to it afterwards is like, oh, we sound like dolts.
No, I mean, I feel like everyone thought it was going to go a different way. So I think you should cut yourself a little bit of slack on that. But yeah, I can see where it's like, oh, that didn't age well.
Yeah, well, the last episode, Jarf and I recorded it during the recent election. And it's like, neither of us wanted to say anything about how it was going to turn out because like, no, we don't want to look bad on this.
Not making any predictions.
But of course, we're recording this on 11/19, and we know who won, but
yeah, people are in denial and won't admit that is the case because apparently there was widespread conspiracy of voter fraud. I have a lot of logical based questions on that, but that's not what this podcast is for. This is not a political cast.
No, it is not. It is not. What we're talking about, the first time you were on the show, Katie, was to talk about Harry Potter, because you love Harry Potter. And Harry Potter is actually very important to our friendship. There's just a lot of news related to the world of Harry Potter, and none of it's good. So start us off, like the big thing that sort of set everything off. Johnny Depp, walk our listeners through in case they're not really familiar.
So Johnny Depp has been in a very contentious divorce proceedings, and I don't know if they're already divorced or not, but this has been going on for years. So he and Amber Heard, his ex-wife, I think they're divorced, or
yeah, they are divorced.
Okay, I knew it was like the divorce got dragged out. There's been a lot of legal proceedings. Basically, Amber Heard alleges that Johnny Depp
was physically abusive. Yeah,
was physically abusive, and he obviously maintains his innocence. And so it's just been. I mean, there's people fighting on Amber's behalf. There's people fighting on Johnny's behalf. It's wild. But most recently, he had sued for, was it defamation?
Yeah, there's a European tabloid that he was suing for defamation.
And he lost the case because and it was based on, I can't remember the exact phrase that they were basing it on, but it had something to do with like him being a wife beater. He lost the case. And then he lost his job on the next
Fantastic Beasts.
Yeah, Fantastic Beasts. it's the third one in the series. So he lost his role in that. And it's just, it's weird to me because these allegations about Johnny Depp have been swirling for years. I'm not sure about the first movie, but definitely before the second movie. If they thought that what he did was so egregious, then that's the time that they should have taken action. It seems a little late in the game to be doing it now. I get why they're doing it. I mean, if he did do the things that he is alleged to have done, then absolutely he should not be in this role. But it's just, it's not new. It's not a new allegation. So I don't know. It's confusing to me. I don't love when they replace characters. That's just from like a continuity standpoint. I know that that's been done in the past with minor characters in Harry Potter, like Crabbe and Goyle were recast. There's a bunch of other ones. And then obviously Richard Harris, when he passed away, they had to recast Dumbledore. So it's not out of the realm of possibility for Harry Potter. It's just, it just seems like, it seems weird, like why now and not before?
It's all about this defamation suit, and I don't know if you're giving him the benefit of the doubt, which they had been doing. I don't understand why they would no longer be giving him that now, as opposed to then, like when the accusations were levied against him. There's just a whole lot of crazy stuff going on with this series. People aren't familiar. Now, the Fantastic Beasts, that wasn't even the original book. What was it? Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them?
Yes.
That wasn't a narrative book when it was released. It was just like sort of like an encyclopedia of creatures in the Harry Potter world, right?
Yeah, it was just basically a guidebook, and it was just like each page was dedicated to a different creature and like, you know, what they looked like and what they ate and what their attributes were and that kind of stuff. It was like a neat little tie-in to the Harry Potter series. I think J.K. Rowling did it. All the proceeds went to a charity, so she did it to raise money. So yeah, it wasn't an actual book. It was just kind of like a little, like you said, in an encyclopedia.
And the claim is they're going to make 5 movies out of this.
Yeah, they need to stop. The first one was good, and I think we had a discussion about the first one. I liked it. It kind of brought back the magic that I had with the Harry Potter series. And then the second one just was a mess. I think I was supposed to talk to someone's daughter. We were gonna talk about it for your show, and it just never happened because I couldn't do it.
Because nobody cared.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jason's daughter was going to come back, and we were sort of setting it up, and then there was so little interest in it. There's so little buzz. These are wildly expensive movies. They're in talks to replace Johnny Depp with, was it Mads Mikkelsen, who was the bad guy in Doctor Strange.
I hadn't heard that. That's interesting.
To me, it sounds like they're using this as an excuse to get rid of Johnny Depp, who I'm sure is a very expensive actor to have in your movies. They're replacing him with a good actor, but when I said Mads Mikkelsen, nobody knew who I was talking about.
Yeah, I have no idea who that is.
And he's a good actor. He's been in a ton of stuff. He played Hannibal in the Hannibal TV show.
Okay.
He played the main character in Rogue One, the Star Wars movie.
Mm-hmm.
He played the guy who designed the Death Star, the main character's father.
But if you have to tell me what he was in, then obviously he's not a big name. Like you say Johnny Depp and everybody knows who you're talking about.
So it sort of strikes me as, and you know, I'm not going by any inside knowledge, just some stuff just doesn't pass the smell test. But it does seem like these movies aren't making money like they need them to. They got to make 5 of these things. Johnny Depp costs a lot of money. I'm sure they signed contracts, paid a lot, and he's probably getting a percentage of the profits because this is the guy who, you know, made the Pirates of the Caribbean movies successful, and he's a major star. Okay, he's not big box office anymore. I mean, people don't go to movies to see Johnny Depp any longer. It's almost like, okay, here's an excuse to take that money off the books, and we're going to hire somebody who's going to cost a fifth, if that, to replace him. I just get a sense like, okay, we have a chance to ditch him, bring in someone else that's going to be cheaper. article about this, I want to say it was Entertainment Weekly. The studio is really in a bind because the first movie made a lot of money. The second movie made okay money. But the studio is sort of already committed to 5 movies. And it's hard to not do that because when you have a completed series, there's money on the back end that the studios can make because they can release the DVD sets or they can sell the entire set, the rights to them to different streaming services or TV or whatever. Every year you have that a day of Harry Potter on the USA Network. It's really a black eye for the studios. What was the movies with Shailene Woodley?
Oh, Divergent.
They just didn't make the last movie. It was supposed to be 4 movies. They made 3, and the third one tanked. And they were trying to figure out a way to do the last movie as like a TV miniseries or something, but the contracts didn't work out. And they just decided, it's like, nobody cares. No, we're not going to make this movie. And that really looks bad for the studio. It's a real money loser. So I'm just wondering if they're going to try to find a way to do these movies on the cheaper, lower the budget so they can get these but still, that's still 3 more movies.
I actually saw that Johnny Depp, even though he got kicked from this 3rd movie, still got paid. He got his full paycheck for the movie. I'm sure he probably won't get paid for the next 2, but is it 5 or 6? I thought it was 5.
I think it's 5.
Yeah, from what I understand, they had to pay him for the 3rd movie. Yeah, if they don't have to pay him for 2 more, that's great for them, for their budget, but they already lost that money on the 3rd one.
By the way, that's a nice way to go through life. Just getting paid millions of dollars for a movie to not do a movie.
Yeah, right?
I'm not doing that movie for free.
I wish I could say that and be like, I will not be in the next Fantastic Beasts. Please give me $30 million. Thank you. I mean, I'll settle for $3 million. I mean, you know.
Let's be honest. We would settle for like, here's a T-shirt and a free Coca-Cola. And there's other controversies because what was it? J.K. Rowling has really public view of her in certain groups is not fantastic because she has been outspoken in criticism of members of the trans community.
And it's not just her stance on transgender people and the tweets that she sent in defense of herself. It's the fact that she doubled down on it and penned the scathing essay that she posted on her website. And I checked today, it is still there. And it's just, she just won't back down. And I think the biggest thing that I just don't understand how someone who has created this inclusive world where love and acceptance always wins over or bad, and I don't understand how someone who preaches love and all that can have such hateful views, and that it's like, okay, I'm inclusive to all these groups except for this one. You know, there was a controversy over the casting of a Black woman to play Hermione in Cursed Child, and she vehemently defended that decision, saying that she never said anywhere in the books that Hermione was white, and she totally supported the casting of a Black actress. And then after the books were written, she stated that Dumbledore was gay and, you know, has staunchly defended gay rights. So it's like she's inclusive of everyone. And then, so I think I'm taken aback because it just doesn't, it feels weird. It doesn't feel right that she's exclusive towards the trans community when everything that not that I know her personally, but from like her writings and everything about her, that she's inclusive. So it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's surprising, and like you said, she's doubled down. So she wrote that essay, and then she's been writing mystery novels. 2 of those mystery novels have sort of had some biting commentary on members of the trans community. One of the bad guys on one of the books was trans. And then there was another statement where like somebody was threatened. It's like, you're going to go to jail. You're not going to like it. Not pre-op. It's just odd.
It's really odd. It's like, it almost makes me want, like, does she have early onset Alzheimer's and like her frontal lobe's like not working, or like it doesn't fit everything that I understood her to be about.
It also just feels personal.
Yeah, I'm like, did something happen? Who hurt her?
Often when you find somebody that has a particular prejudice, sometimes if you dig, you find out, oh, well, they had a particular experience in their lives that embittered them. It can make it vehement where when it seems so out of nowhere. And I don't know. I mean, J.K. Rowling doesn't do a lot of interviews. So you lose the opportunity to ask her, it's like, why are you thinking of this? Why is it coming out this way? Where is this issue stemming from? It's just bothersome because you like her so much. She can be so eloquent and that's sort of a spitfire. And you love it when she's on your side because she has gone after people who have been like ignorant towards her or ignorant towards, like you say, she being colorblind in the casting for Hermione in the Broadway show, and people who I disagree with going after is like, well, because you view it this way, I'm going to burn your books. And she responds like, that's fine. I already got my money for them.
It's just, it's just odd. It's very odd. It makes me sad. It hurts my heart because I have loved the Harry Potter world for so long, and it's so hard for me to separate the two, the author and the works. And I know this happens a lot with people when the artist turns out to not be a great person. I know the author of Ender's Game, Orson Scott Card, he is a phenomenal writer. He has horrible views on homosexuality. I actually had to stop reading his books because it upset me so much until I realized that I could get them for free from the library. Because I'm I'm not giving him any more of my money. But, it's just it's so hard when you're an artist that you love has these views that are just abhorrent and you can't agree with, but you still love their stuff. And it's just, how do you separate the artist from the art?
It's so hard. And, it's something that I've dealt with musicians who I love, who've disappointed me, writers, people in comics, comedians. I was just reading an article that was talking about Louis C.K. And boy, I wanted to like Louis C.K. because he was a funny comedian. He never was one of my favorites, but he was so admirable because he's a guy who had a very clear artistic vision for his FX show. And he basically said, it's pay me a very small amount of money and I'm going to write the shows. I'm going to star in the shows. I'm going to edit everything. And because he wanted to do it his way, so he shrank the price tag down, and then he was able to do something really special. And regardless of, I thought the Louis show was okay, but it was definitely admirable just for the chutzpah to do it. And then it turns out he was just a terrible human being. Especially
now with social media and everybody being so connected, and it's much easier for stuff to spread. It feels like there's something nasty about everybody who's famous right now. But I'm sure it's always been that way. But it's really hard to separate the artist from the art, especially when it's something that you've invested a lot of time and money and heart into. J.K. Rowling, though she doesn't do interviews, she's very active on Twitter, very active on social media. So it's not like Spider-Man was co-created by Steve Ditko. And Steve Ditko was really a recluse. There's only one picture of him out there and would not do any interviews or anything. You really have to search far and wide to get any idea of his beliefs or anything about him. He may have been a jerk. He may have been a terrible person. Who knows? But J.K. Rowling, she lets you know her thoughts on stuff. That was awesome for a while when she would be taking the piss out of terrible people. And that's what you have to be. That's what's so dangerous. Is sooner or later, she's going to say something that you're not going to like. And you hope it's something that you can just chalk up to a difference of opinion. No, she's saying some terrible stuff. This isn't just a difference of opinion. This is hateful speech. The round out for the hat trick, Urza Miller is also in the Fantastic Beasts movie. It's a weird thing where there was a YouTube clip of him choking a fan. Oh, yeah.
there's no context to it. It's one of those things that's like, I really want to see the 5 minutes leading up to and the 5 minutes afterwards, because it really is like they take the shot of him. It looks like he's joking around and he grabs the fan and then somebody's like, hey, don't do that. And yeah, I don't know. So all these things related to the Fantastic Beasts movies is like, it just seems like such a snake bit production. You didn't like the second one.
I did not. I thought there was too much going on. The storylines were messy. It focused on things that I didn't care about. The main character spent much of the time separate. So, like, I get it. Rowling really likes to do world building, and she likes to get into the details that have many little subplots going on. And that's great for a novel and a series of novels, but it doesn't translate well on screen. Crimes of Grindelwald is missing the adaptation from the books to screenplay that professionals usually do, like they did with the Harry Potter series. So they know what they're doing. They know what plays well for screen. Rowling kept most of the control over the screenplay, and she's not a screenplay writer. She's an author. She's a book author. So she didn't have that kind of like check and balance of making sure like this will actually make sense in a movie. It's like the intent was for the 5 movie series to just be one 10-hour long movie at the end of it, instead of like 5 individual standalone movies that all tie together because it's the same character, same universe.
Are you going to keep watching these movies?
I don't think I will be scrambling to the theater to watch the next installment. I may watch them if they're on streaming for free or if I'm on a plane. And it's really, really hard for me to say. And I'll give you a little bit of context. So I usually, before I come on a podcast, I like to rewatch a movie or show or reread a book if I'm going to be talking about that. Just I like to revisit whatever it is that I'm going to be talking about so that it's kind of fresh in my mind. I could not bring myself to pay the $3.99 to rent it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, David Yates has been directing these movies. Looking it up right now, Beast. And I'm wondering if Yates is going to be directing that. It really seems like this movie needs a course correction. David Yates is going to direct it. Oh, boy. And Yates he did like the last 4 or 5 of the Harry Potter movies. He's a very good director, but it seems like it might be time for a course correction. Have the screenplays taken over by someone else. Obviously, J.K. Rowling is going to, it'll be story by J.K. Rowling. Get her out of the weeds of this and get a director who can right the ship.
There's so much, there's so many good things and so many good storylines that they could get into, like the whole Grindelwald and Dumbledore love story, whatever, and then how that turned bad and they became like the biggest of enemies. Like, that's huge. Why isn't the movie about that? I think that's what they're working towards, but like, nobody cares about this other shit. We just want to know about that. Just one movie about that.
Also, does this need to be a movie? It's a little late for that, obviously. When they started making these, the first one was in 2016, the entertainment landscape has changed. I know they just announced that the second Suicide Squad movie, there's going to be a mini-series based on one of the characters played by John Cena that's going to be an HBO Max series, where it's going to be, okay, it's related to this, but we're going to take this character, but it works better as a TV miniseries than it does as a movie. My favorite thing in the Star Wars universe right now is Mandalorian, and that is a weekly TV show, and it wouldn't work as well as movies. I just wonder if you're going to go deep into the weeds of this, maybe movies wasn't the right way to go about it, because there doesn't seem to be the interest. But I bet the interest would be there, and you would have a better chance of sort of being truer to the idea of Fantastic Beasts, where it's like, okay, all these great creatures, and have individual hour-long episodes about one individual creature and have an adventure story around that, as opposed to a hugely budgeted movie week after week.
I don't know, I hope they can turn it around, but it just, like, the second one was just, it wasn't for me, and it was, I don't know. And I part of it is, I think I mentioned this when we talked about the first movie. Eddie Redmayne was just like weird to me. Like, it's just creepy and weird. And I think he's supposed to come off as just kind of like strange and charming, but I just like, you're creepy. Like,
yeah, Hollywood doesn't exactly know what to do with him. he's not really a leading man. He's a quirky actor with an unusual vibe to him, and you can make that work, but he's not a leading man.
It's interesting, and this is really, but like, I see him as like a Willy Wonka character. I really feel like he would have been a good Willy Wonka, which is funny because that goes full circle with Johnny Depp.
Yeah. What's funny is Johnny Depp would always go for those roles, even though Johnny Depp was in his 20s, 30s, 40s. He had leading man good looks. He's sort of aged out of it. Looks a little weather beaten. But Johnny Depp was always trying to avoid those leading man roles, even though he could have done them very well. But Eddie Redmayne, he would have been a good Willy Wonka because he's definitely interesting and he has presence and charisma, but it's not good guy charisma. It's sort of Alan Rickman-ish, where he has a lot of screen presence, but you're not that interested in seeing him get the girl. He's not as you would like Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah, that would be nice. I would like to have him.
By the way, whatever happened with many moons ago, you were trying to get your wonderful husband to grow his hair long to get that Thor look. How long did that last before that was given up on?
So he chopped it all off last December, but then a little thing called the pandemic happened, and he has not gotten a haircut since last December. So he has the most beautiful curls right now, and I love it so much. And he's like been testing out different like hair products, and he's finally got something that works. So he actually likes his hair now. So it just took a pandemic for me to get what I wanted.
Ryan's such a good guy.
He is. He's the best.
Harry Potter world, not just talking about Fantastic Beasts, you also were not particularly interested in the Broadway show, the
Cursed Child.
You were not loving it.
No, I read the screenplay and I was like, this seems like bad fan fiction.
You were pretty disappointed in it. You just haven't been loving Harry Potter world.
No, it really hurts me because after the books ended, J.K. Rowling, well, probably like her team, launched this site called Pottermore, and it got really deep into the lore, and you work your way through the site, and it got into like backstories of stuff. Like it talked about the wizarding school in North America. Like it really got into some really interesting stuff, which you could definitely build some more books or maybe a movie about. That would have been really interesting. So there was so much good stuff that came out of it, and it just seems like now it's more a cash grab than an actual love of the world.
It hasn't been for a little while, but there also seemed to be a thing where it felt like once a year or twice a year, something crazy would come out of something she would write for Pottermore that would get people stirred up for a while, and then it would go quiet again. And she would write stuff that didn't make sense or just seemed weird. Almost like, hey, I'm going to write the craziest thing I can, somehow associated with Pottermore. People get people talking for a while to spur interest. And then it's like, what was it? Last year it was revealing there were no bathrooms at Hogwarts, and they would just use spells to make their waste disappear. I was like,
yeah,
okay.
Was that necessary?
And it really felt like, oh, she's just saying something wacky, knowing that it'll get interest, and it doesn't deepen or make anything more interesting. As opposed to when she revealed that Dumbledore was gay. That felt very organic. That felt like that was something that she knew writing the character. And when somebody asked her, J.K. Rowling, if Dumbledore had a relationship with McGonagall, Professor McGonagall. And she's like, no. And I'm paraphrasing. She basically said, no, Dumbledore was gay. For a lot of people, it was like, oh, yeah, that makes complete sense. And you realize that the signs were there. That made sense when it was organic, not just her afterwards sort of retconning and saying, oh, well, yeah, they use magic to get rid of their waste. Ugh, okay.
Well,
you always have the novels, and you always have the movies, and you just enjoy them and go back to them. And sadly, either she's lost her fastball, or maybe you've just outgrown anything else that they're going to produce.
I don't know if I've outgrown it. I think it's just gone in a direction that doesn't interest me. There's just been so much controversy, and again, I'm right now I'm having a hard time separating the artist from the art. I've got some feelings to work through too, on top of that the last movie was garbage.
I mentioned how much I like Mandalorian. Although the most recent Star Wars movies have been a bit of a mixed bag, they've done some good stuff, and it certainly were an improvement over the prequels. And that was a thing of George Lucas is no longer at his creative peak, sold the rights, and they got some very good creatives to take over and go in different directions. Do you think that would work? Because right now, everything is run through and really closely viewed by J.K. Rowling. Could it just be a thing? It was like, maybe it's time for her to let a new generation of people play in that sandbox.
Yeah, I think that is what will take to get this righted, like getting the series back on course. I think she has too much control, which I would, as an artist, or not me, but if I were an artist, I think I understand that want to have control, but it doesn't mean you should have the control. Like, there are people who do this work for a living that are playwrights or directors or whatever that know how to translate stuff onto screen and what plays and what doesn't and what makes sense. And they did a really good job of cutting out some of the minor subplots from the books and putting it onto screen and making the Harry Potter movies, because I mean, if you were to try to put everything that was in there, these movies would be, like 10 hours long, and nobody wants to sit through that. And I know I read somewhere that when they were thinking about what to put on the cutting room floor in terms of what was going into the movies and what was going to get left out, they basically said they were focusing on Harry's story. And so some of those minor stories with the other characters were left out, not because they weren't important, but because they needed to focus on something, or else everything was going to be all over the place, like the second Fantastic Beasts ended up being.
And that's something that's, I think, missing from the Fantastic Beasts. It doesn't have a strong lead character. Not even Eddie Redmayne, but just he's not as compelling as Harry. Harry was a great lead character. He was someone we could relate to, and she did a good job of making him an everyman, but still interesting enough or special enough where you sort of he felt like he deserved to be the center of that world. But you still have your wands, right?
Well, right now they're in a storage unit because we're still waiting for our house to be rebuilt.
Oh my God, still?
Yeah, 2020 is the worst.
Now, is this all being delayed because of the global bastard?
It's a little bit of everything. It's a little bit of miscommunication and fighting with our insurance. It's COVID. It's the city. It's just a myriad of problems. But COVID has definitely slowed down a lot of stuff, just because people are working from home, and it's just harder to do correspondence, especially in like the building world. And it's been a lot of things. But yes, I do still have my wands, but they're not in my possession.
Next year's going to be better.
I don't want to jinx it by saying like it can't get any worse. I feel like if I like say that with complete sincerity, it'll get worse.
It just doesn't seem possible that we can look back on this as the good old days.
Yeah.
All right, Katie, this has been awesome. Plug your pluggables. What do you have going on? What have you been doing with the Special Olympics?
So I haven't been doing anything with Special Olympics because of the aforementioned COVID. But I am the board president for a nonprofit that supports campers with special needs, with a camp in Lakewood, Colorado called Camp Paha. We are actually doing a fundraiser right now. We're kind of preemptively ramping up for Giving Tuesday, which is December 1st. We're just trying to get a head start on the campaign. So that's actually live on Facebook and will be open until December 1st. I can send you the link if you would like it.
Yeah, please. We'll share that. We recommend you're always involved with great stuff. Yeah, definitely. Katie, this has been wonderful talking with you. People hear your voice all the time because you've provided a lot of Katie's questions.
I hope they've been good. I hope they've generated good discussion.
They have. It's been a lot of fun, and we're going to have you back soon. We're coming to the end of the year. We might have to try to get the Honey Badger and Amazing Friends together for the end of the year, the final 2020 episode.
I would love that.
All right. Well, we will. That'd be awesome. We're going to have to set it up, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
That wraps episode 214. Big thanks to Katie. When she first joined the fun, she thought it was a one-time deal. It is a pleasant surprise that she has become an important part of the show, because she is the best. Also, big thanks to Amy Kenrup. I'm always thrilled when she has a chance to contribute, and she never disappoints. Next time on the Cosmic Geppetto Podcast, Scott Corelli from Dueling Genre Productions is back to talk about Geek by Night. Till then, in the words of Jarv Harden,
see you in the funny pages.
Subscribe to the Cosmic Geppetto Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever quality podcasts can be found. Rate and review us while there. Follow us on Twitter at Cosmic Gpod, and we will follow you back. Unless you're a jerk. We don't follow jerks. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/Cosmic Geppetto. We love hearing your ideas for upcoming episodes. Email us at cosmicgeppetto@comcast.net.
Oh boy.